Hey guys, in this video I'll be comparing Lee Priest's 2006 Ironman Pro and Hadi Choopan's 2024 Arnold Classic versions. Both are shorter guys around the same height but pack a ton of dense muscle and have comparable shape. Lee is known for having one of the best midsections, amazing arms, and superb fullness, while Hadi is known for having a great midsection, insane quads, and ridiculous conditioning. Anyways, before the video does start, a like and sub would really help out the channel, and a follow on my Instagram would be much appreciated. With that all being said though, let's get into this video. Alright, starting off with the front double, you can immediately notice that Lee has the superior set of arms. His biceps are mountainous and his triceps are full and swept to perfection. His massive forearms only add to the impressive arm development, an area that he dominates Hadi in. Hadi does fire back though, presenting some tree trunk quads with superior dryness and sweep, great lats, and arguably a better midsection. He keeps the lower abs much tighter than Lee does, and it helps make his midsection look more aesthetic. Additionally, he has better shape and insertions for the lats, which helps him create and carve a more impressive V-taper. While Lee doesn't have the best lats, his taper is still impressive, and his midsection is technically genetically superior. He also has some pretty good quads of his own, which are full and detailed, and he wins in the calves pretty easily. Honestly, I'd probably go with Lee here because he has those insane arms, better aesthetics, and superior proportions. The conditioning disparity isn't that bad in the pose, and I feel like Lee is just pieced together so much better overall. While the last pose was close, the front lat spread was a Hadi pose all day. He is twice as wide across the clavicles, has just as tight of a midsection, phenomenal quads, and to top it all off is the best in the lats by a mile. Lee does have him beat in the arms, calves, and forearms. However, Hadi's domination in the areas that do matter is a little too much for Lee. I will say that Hadi's pointy delts and stringy forearms are super unaesthetic and do detract from the pose, which does make me prefer Lee a little bit more for his aesthetics and cleaner lines, but that being said, I wouldn't feel right giving Lee the win due to his inferior display in the lats and lackluster width, so Hadi would take this pose. The side chest is a great shot for both, however, once again I think that this is going to be a Hadi win. While it isn't a landslide victory, Hadi has an outstanding side leg, much better than Lee's, which does show zero depth to the cuts. Both are comparable in size, however Hadi is so much more conditioned and full, to the point that Lee really cannot compete downstairs. Upstairs is closer, with both having great controlled midsections, huge arms, and comparable chests. However, I think that Hadi's grainy conditioning and superior size in the delt and chest would get him the win. Not only is Hadi more conditioned and presents more size, but he also is equally as aesthetic, if not more. I really do like his look in the pose. I think that he easily wins here and defeats Lee in the side chest. The back poses were always an area where Lee struggled, however, I've always thought that this version was pretty solid. However, going up against Hadi is no easy feat, and I think that Hadi would be winning this pose upstairs. He has a much more developed and thick lower back, ridiculous delts, and wider lats. Lee does have better arms like we saw in the front double, however from behind they aren't as advantageous. Lee does look pretty good in the hamstrings and glutes, showing some faint striations, if any really, in those glutes, and some pretty impressive development and separation in the hamstrings. He also easily wins in the calves, which do dwarf Hadi's. Hadi does clearly have a dryness advantage in the lower body though, as he smokes Lee in terms of overall conditioning. Additionally, his outer quad sweep is twice as pronounced as Lee's, which only further betters his silhouette. I don't think there's really a way that Lee can win here, as Hadi has the upper hand almost everywhere. The rear lat spread is definitely not a close pose, since I think that this is going to be an easy Hadi win. Honestly, it shouldn't even come as a surprise, as Hadi dominates most of these poses because he probably has some of the best conditioning that we've seen in years, and he couples it with mass and aesthetic lines. In this specific pose, his waist is just as small as Lee's, while presenting wider, lower inserted lats, thicker traps, and a completely developed and thick lower back. His hamstrings and glutes are clearly ahead by a large margin, and there really isn't anything else to say. Lee doesn't have the low lat insertions, he doesn't have the best back development, and he isn't the most conditioned from behind, all things that really do spell disaster when going up against someone like Hadi. The side tricep is one of Lee's pretty good poses, however this picture really doesn't do him justice. It's not only blurry, but it also doesn't really capture him in the best light. On the other hand, Hadi looks tremendous, showcasing one of the best midsections to date, a great arm and delt, and that phenomenal side leg. Lee's midsection doesn't look as tight here, his side leg isn't as conditioned, and his arm doesn't look as impressive as you would think. Sure, his tricep is better than Hadi's, However, the size disparity isn't that large between the two, while Hadi completely outconditions Lee from the side. I keep looking back at that insane midsection on Hadi, which looks, absolutely out of this world. Honestly, that alone is enough for him to win the pose, as Hadi has virtually zero flaws, apart from, a lack of fullness. The ab and thigh is finally a pose where Lee can sort of do some damage, as his genetically superior abs are on full display. While he may have a perfectly symmetrical 8-pack, his abs do not look, as perfectly separated as Hadi's. Moreover, his serratus and obliques are clearly not as detailed and developed, which does take away from the overall detail. Lee does show more detail in the quads though, and I especially like the feathering in them. However, Hadi's are undeniably larger and drier. Looking at their tapers, I'd say that Lee's narrow clavicles and lackluster lats hold him back against the ultra-wide ones of Hadi. Hadi is just really able to carve a spectacular outline for himself, something that Lee really cannot compete with. The most muscular is the last pose, and it's a pretty freaky one for both. Lee has those massive arms, crazy forearms and calves, and presents some nice muscle maturity, and his delts appear pretty impressive as well. Hadi has equally as impressive delts, deeper, finer striations in the chest, a great midsection, and massive legs. Lee's feathered quads do look really great as well, and his midsection looks just as good as Hadi's in this pose. I personally do prefer Lee in the pose for a similar reason to why I like Phil Heath's most muscular. Although both are narrower in the clavicle area, it sort of helps them create a really compact look, and their bubbly round arms really do shine. Objectively though, Hadi would probably win, since he is better almost everywhere and presents superior conditioning. I would personally pick Lee, however, do let me know down below, who do you think would be winning this shot? Alright guys, that about does it for this video. In short, Hadi basically won every pose, or came close to winning every one of them. On stage, I think that Hadi would probably and most definitely objectively win, since he is better conditioned, wider, and has more development from behind. Lee's genetics and crazy arms did not go unnoticed. However, I don't think that he ever reached his true potential, especially from behind. He really needed that back, better conditioning, and maybe some more chest thickness. Anyways, I hope you all enjoyed this video, and I'll see you all in the next one. Thanks for watching.